The gentlewoman yields back. Mr. Collins from the state of Georgia is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I couldn't help but to notice you mentioned the Braves, but as being a good citizen of the 10th District, we have the Georgia Bulldogs that are back-to-back.
Bulldogs.
Maybe a three-peat, and you can mention that when you come back in the fall. Wait a minute now. I've got time going here. Folks, this is my first time being elected. I'm a freshman in Congress, but I've spent many years in county politics as a county chairman. So I've worked those polls, and I had to work them personally because I know how hard it was to get people to show up to work the polls. And that was the case. Now, it's not anymore, but that was the case. And I want to focus on a couple of things that I don't think we've touched on too much today. And Mrs. Spakowski, I'd like to focus on cleaning up our voter rolls. And I don't know how much your knowledge of the Electronic Registration Information Center is, but that's kind of what I want to hit on right now, because at least 7 states have pulled out of this electronic registration to so-called improve our voter rolls. Do you see any concerns with ERIC?
Yes. In fact, I published a paper some months ago pointing out many of the problems with ERIC. I mean, just to give you one quick example, the whole purpose of ERIC is, excuse me, for states to share their statewide computer lists to find, for example, people who are registered in more than one state, for example, perhaps Georgia and Florida. But as we talked about before, excuse me, being a citizen is a requirement, and yet the ERIC membership agreement bars states when they're providing their statewide voter list and their DMV lists, which are also used to check this information, from providing any information that indicates the citizenship status of an individual, for example, who's got a driver's license. Why would you bar that information? That's relevant to whether someone should be registered or not. I understand why those states have pulled out. I believe they're working on an alternative, trying to set up an alternative that won't have some of these problems that ERIC has, and I encourage them to do that.
Has the founder of ERIC previously shared information with outside resources?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Has the founder of ERIC, David Becker, has he been known to share information with outside election organizations?
Well, in fact, that's another issue that the withdrawing states haven't been able to get a clear answer to, and that is whether their confidential voter registration information has been shared with third parties, particularly third parties that might be using it for partisan purposes.
Would you agree with me that the highlight that's been put on voting today, it would be better to be decentralized and let local people like they used to go back and start cleaning up our voter rolls?
I think states, there are many, many things states can do to clean up their voter rolls. The one thing that they can't do on their own is the state of Georgia doesn't have the ability to get information on its own of who might be registered in both Georgia and Florida without the cooperation of Florida. So some kind of agreement needs to be there for the sharing of data. There used to be a second program that did that. It was called the Kansas Interstate Crosscheck Program, but it was driven out of business by lawsuits filed by the ACLU and others who didn't want a rival to ERIC.
And that happens a lot, not just in that, but in the next thing that I want to talk to you, and thank you, I'm running short. Ms. Narudin, tell your son thank you for his service, first of all. Dominion machines. Georgia's got more than any other state in the union, I believe. Probably about 10,000. Is it cheaper to use Dominion machines or paper ballots?
Microphone.
I would have to say it's probably 10 times more expensive to use those Dominion machines. As a small county, they only had one polling precinct until Mr. Spakowski clearly hit the nail on the head and we got sued and we had to open up more polling places, and we didn't get any more extra voters in the 2022 election than we did 2020. we had to go out and spend extra money on all those new Dominion machines, which now has not been updated, and there's clearly a cybersecurity threat with those machines because there is a patch that they want you to implement, and nobody wants to update them in Georgia.
To answer your question, if I may, sir.
You can, the witness can comment.
Yes, thank you. Fulton has over 830,000 registered voters, and I think that there would be a challenge conducting a paper ballot election for Fulton in particular. You know, as far as the cost of it, I don't know, but I will say that comparing Fulton to a county with 10,000 people is just not fair.
We've got 28,000.
28,000, okay.
I yield back, Mr. Chairman. I got a lot more questions, but I'll yield back.
The gentleman's time's expired.